After the Romans left Britain in the early 5th century, the island was plunged into a period of intense turmoil and uncertainty. Imagine it for centuries, the Romans had been the backbone of Britain, providing order, infrastructure, and a semblance of security. When they departed, they left behind a vacuum that was quickly filled by chaos. The Britons, the island's native Celtic inhabitants, suddenly found themselves without the military and administrative support they had relied on. These were tough times. Local chieftains and petty kings tried to maintain control, but their efforts were fragmented. Britain became a patchwork of small, often warring territories. Picture it like a jigsaw puzzle where none of the pieces fit neatly together anymore. One of the major threats came from the east, across the North Sea. The Anglo-Saxons, composed of various Germanic tribes like the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, saw an opportunity in Britain's newfound vulnerability. Initially, they started with raids, testing the waters. But soon, these raids turned into full-blown invasions and settlements. The Anglo-Saxons were fierce warriors and skilled sailors, making them formidable foes. It's interesting to think about how these early Anglo-Saxons might have perceived Britain. To them, it was a land of promise and potential, ripe for conquest. They weren't just invaders, they were settlers looking to carve out new lives for themselves. Over time, they began to establish their own territories, gradually pushing the native Britons further to the west and north. During this chaotic period, the legendary figure of King Arthur emerges. Now, whether Arthur was a real historical figure or a composite of various leaders, his stories symbolize the Britons' resistance against the invaders. The tales of Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table paint a picture of heroism, chivalry, and a desperate fight to preserve a way of life that was rapidly disappearing. Amidst all this conflict, another significant change was happening: the spread of Christianity. The Roman Empire had brought Christianity to Britain, but after their departure, it began to take deeper root. Missionaries like St. Patrick, who famously converted Ireland, and St. Augustine, who established his mission in Canterbury, played crucial roles in this transformation. Christianity brought a new cultural and spiritual framework that helped to unify and stabilize parts of the island. It's fascinating to consider how religion and warfare were intertwined during this period. While the Britons and Anglo-Saxons were often at each other's throats, the spread of Christianity offered a common ground, at least among the Britons. This new faith helped to foster a sense of community and shared identity that transcended local tribal affiliations. The struggle for control of Britain wasn't just about land or power, it was also about identity. The native Britons were fighting not only to defend their homes but also to preserve their cultural heritage. As the Anglo-Saxons established their own kingdoms, they brought with them their language, customs, and traditions, which gradually blended with the existing Celtic culture. This fusion of cultures would eventually give rise to the English identity. One of the remarkable aspects of this period is the resilience of the Britons. Despite being pushed to the fringes of the island into areas like Wales, Cornwall, and the Scottish Highlands, they managed to retain their distinct cultural identity. To this day, these regions have a rich Celtic heritage that harks back to those turbulent times. As the Anglo-Saxons settled and established their kingdoms, Britain began to see the emergence of new political entities. Kingdoms like Wessex, Mercia, and Northumbria started to take shape, laying the groundwork for what would eventually become England. These new kingdoms were often at war with each other, but they also engaged in alliances and diplomacy, gradually creating a more complex and interconnected political landscape. One can't overlook the role of the natural environment in this historical drama. Britain's geography, its rivers, forests, and hills played a crucial role in shaping the course of events. The landscape provided both opportunities and challenges for the various groups vying for control. It influenced everything from battle tactics to settlement patterns, and it added another layer of complexity to the already intricate web of conflict and cooperation. The period following the Roman departure from Britain was one of great flux and transformation. It was a time when the old Roman order gave way to new, emerging powers. The struggle for Britain was not just a series of battles, it was a profound social and cultural upheaval that set the stage for the future of the island. As we look back on this period, it's clear that it was a formative time in British history. The conflicts and challenges of the post-Roman era forced the inhabitants of Britain to adapt and evolve. The blending of Celtic and Anglo-Saxon cultures, the spread of Christianity, and the emergence of new political entities all contributed to the rich tapestry of Britain's heritage. So, the next time you think of Britain in the Dark Ages, remember that it was far from a static or monolithic period. It was a dynamic and complex time, filled with conflict, adaptation, and transformation. It was a time when the seeds of modern Britain were sown, and its legacy can still be seen in the cultural and historical landscape of the island today.